You know what nobody talks about? The people who are always good, always kind, always giving, are often the ones secretly falling apart inside. And today, we're going to expose something that might make you uncomfortable. Because being good might actually be destroying your life. Think about it for a second. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you helped someone else while your own life was crumbling? How many times have you been the hero in someone else's story while feeling like a failure in your own? This isn't about becoming selfish. This isn't about abandoning kindness. This is about understanding something far deeper, something that could completely change how you see yourself and the world around you. See, we live in a society that tells us being good is simple. Help others, be kind, put people first. But what they don't tell you is the price you pay. What they don't mention is the invisible cost that chips away at your soul every single day. And here's the thing, this goes way deeper than just feeling tired or burnt out. We're talking about a fundamental misunderstanding of what goodness actually means. A trap that catches the best people, the ones with the biggest hearts, the ones who genuinely want to make the world better. The performance of virtue. Let me paint you a picture. There's someone in your life right now. Maybe it's you. Someone who always shows up for everyone else. They're at every event. They help with every crisis. They're the first person people call when something goes wrong. On the surface, this looks beautiful. This looks like virtue. This looks like someone who has it all figured out. But look closer. Really look. Notice how they never talk about their own struggles. Notice how they change the subject when you ask how they're really doing. Notice that forced smile, that tension in their shoulders, that exhaustion behind their eyes. This person isn't just being good, they're performing goodness. And there's a massive difference. When you perform goodness, you're not acting from a place of genuine overflow. You're acting from a place of lack. You're trying to prove something to yourself, to others, to the universe. You're trying to prove you're worthy of love by being useful. You're trying to prove you deserve to exist by being needed. You're trying to fill a void inside yourself by pouring everything out for others. And here's what makes this so dangerous. It works, kind of, temporarily. People praise you. They appreciate you. They call you amazing. And for a moment, that void inside feels a little smaller. For a moment, you feel like you matter. But then the moment passes, and you need another hit, another person to save, another crisis to solve, another opportunity to prove your goodness. It becomes an addiction to being needed, an addiction to external validation, disguised as selflessness. Think about the mother who sacrifices everything for her children, then uses that sacrifice as emotional currency. Think about the friend who helps everyone but keeps a mental scorecard of who owes them what. Think about the employee who works themselves to death, then resents everyone who doesn't notice. This isn't love. This is a transaction, a desperate trade of service for significance. And the cost? The cost is your actual self. The real you, the person underneath all that performance. That person gets buried so deep, you forget they even exist. You become a hollow shell walking around doing good things. But there's nobody home. The lights are on, but the house is empty. And the worst part, nobody notices. Because you're so good at the performance. You've practiced it for so long. You've perfected the mask. But you notice, in those quiet moments at 3 a.m, when you're alone with your thoughts, when the performance finally stops, you notice the emptiness. You feel the exhaustion. You sense something is fundamentally wrong. You're doing everything right according to society's rules. You're being good. You're being kind. You're being selfless. So why do you feel so lost? The tyranny of should. Now, let's talk about something even more subtle, even more dangerous. The word should. I should help my neighbor. I should visit my parents more. I should volunteer. I should be more patient. I should be more understanding. I should be more giving. Should, should, should. Every should is a little prison, a tiny cage you build around yourself. And you think you're being virtuous by following these shoulds. You think you're being a good person. But here's what's really happening. You're living according to someone else's idea of goodness. You're following a script written by society, by religion, by your parents, by culture. A script that was never meant for you specifically. It's like wearing shoes that don't fit. Sure, they're shoes. They serve the basic function. But they're not your shoes. They pinch, they rub, they cause blisters. And you walk around in pain thinking this is just what walking feels like. The tyranny of should keeps you in a constant state of guilt, because there's always more you should be doing. There's always someone you should be helping. There's always somewhere you're falling short of the impossible standard. And here's the trick. The standard is impossible by design. It has to be, because if you could actually reach it, you'd stop striving, you'd stop performing, you'd stop being controllable. Think about it. If you fully believed you were already good enough, already worthy, already complete, would you still sacrifice yourself endlessly for others' approval? Probably not. So the system needs you to believe you're never quite good enough. You need to try harder, give more, do better. It's exhausting, and it's supposed to be. Because exhausted people don't question things. Exhausted people don't rebel. Exhausted people just keep following the script, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if they're good enough for long enough, they'll finally feel okay. But that day never comes. It can't come. Because the problem isn't that you're not good enough. The problem is that you're playing a game you can never win. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who believes they should always put others first. Sounds noble, right? But watch what happens. They're at dinner with friends. They want pizza, but everyone else wants sushi. So they agree to sushi. Because they should be flexible, they should consider others. Small thing, right? Just one dinner. But it's not just one dinner, it's every dinner, every decision, every moment of every day. They're constantly overriding their own preferences, their own desires, their own needs. Because they should. Over time, something terrifying happens. They lose touch with what they actually want. They've ignored their own inner voice for so long that they can't hear it anymore. Someone asks them a simple question, "What do you want?" And they have no idea. They've spent so long figuring out what they should want that they've forgotten how to access what they actually want. This is the tyranny of should. It doesn't just control your actions, it erases your identity, the shadow side of giving. Here's something that might shock you. Every act of giving has a shadow. Every act of kindness has a hidden side. And if you're not aware of it, that shadow will poison everything. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the unconscious expectations that come with giving, the invisible strings attached to your generosity. Now, you might be thinking, but I don't expect anything in return. I give freely. Really, let's test that. Think about a time you helped someone and they didn't say thank you. How did that feel? Be honest. Think about a time you went out of your way for someone and they never acknowledged it. What came up for you? Think about all the times you've given and given and given to someone and then they disappeared when you needed help. How did that make you feel? If you felt hurt, disappointed, or resentful, then there were expectations. Hidden expectations you didn't even know you had. And this is the shadow side of giving. We pretend our kindness is pure and unconditional, but underneath there's often a secret contract we've written. A contract the other person never signed, but we expect them to honor. I helped you move, so you should help me move. I listened to your problems, so you should listen to mine. I was there for you, so you should be there for me. We never say these things out loud. We might not even consciously think them, but they're there, operating in the background, creating invisible debts and obligations. And when these invisible contracts get broken, when people don't pay back what we think they owe us, we feel betrayed, we feel used, we feel like fools. But here's the truth. They didn't betray us. We betrayed ourselves by giving when we didn't really want to, by helping when we didn't really have it to give, by pretending our generosity was free when it actually had a price tag. Real giving has no shadow. Real giving expects nothing. Real giving comes from such abundance that there's no sense of loss, no sense of sacrifice, no need for repayment. But most of what we call giving, it's not that, it's conditional. It's transactional. It's strategic. We give to be liked. We give to be needed. We give to avoid conflict. We give to maintain our image. We give to prove we're good people. And every time we give from this place, we're not actually giving at all. We're investing. We're expecting returns. We're playing a game. And games have winners and losers, which means someone always ends up hurt. The person who gives from obligation ends up resentful. The person who receives feels the invisible strings and ends up guilty or trapped. Nobody wins. So what's the answer? Stop giving? No. The answer is to become brutally honest with yourself about why you're giving, about what you're really doing, about what you're hoping to get in return. Because only when you see the shadow can you choose differently. Only when you acknowledge the expectation can you let it go. Only when you admit you're keeping score can you stop playing the game. The violence of niceness. Now we're going to go even deeper into territory that might make you really uncomfortable. Being nice can actually be a form of violence, not physical violence, not obvious violence, but violence nonetheless. How? When you're nice to keep the peace, you're often suppressing truth, you're hiding how you really feel, you're pretending everything is fine when it's not. And that suppressed truth doesn't just disappear, it goes somewhere, usually into your body, into your relationships, into passive-aggressive behavior, into resentment that builds and builds until it explodes. Think about the person who never says no, who never sets boundaries, who's always accommodating, always flexible, always nice. On the surface, they seem peaceful, easy to get along with, no drama. But what's really happening? They're teaching people how to disrespect them. They're training others that their needs don't matter. They're creating relationships based on dishonesty. Because every time they say yes when they mean no, they're lying. Every time they smile when they're hurt, they're lying. Every time they pretend to agree when they don't, they're lying. And lies, even nice lies, even well-intentioned lies, create distance. They prevent real intimacy. They make genuine connection impossible. You can't truly love someone you're lying to. And you can't truly love someone who doesn't know the real you. So that person who's always nice, they're surrounded by people who don't actually know them, who love a version of them that doesn't exist, who would probably leave if the real person ever showed up. That's lonely. That's terrifying. That's violent to the self. There's also violence in the way niceness controls others. When you're always understanding, always forgiving, always accepting, you're not actually giving people room to grow. You're enabling bad behavior. You're preventing natural consequences. You're interfering with the feedback loop that helps people learn and change. A real friend tells you when you're screwing up. A real friend holds you accountable. A real friend loves you enough to risk conflict for your growth. But a nice person, they just keep smoothing things over, keep making excuses, keep pretending everything is fine, because confrontation isn't nice, honesty isn't nice, boundaries aren't nice, so they sacrifice truth on the altar of niceness. And everyone suffers for it. The person being enabled doesn't get the wake-up call they need. The nice person becomes increasingly resentful. The relationship becomes increasingly fake. All in the name of being good, of being kind, of being nice. But it's not good, it's not kind, it's cowardly, it's dishonest, it's violent to everyone involved, especially yourself. The freedom in authentic goodness. So after everything we've talked about, you might be wondering, is goodness even real? Is kindness just manipulation? Should we stop caring about others? No, and absolutely not. But we need to understand what authentic goodness actually looks like. And it's nothing like what we've been taught. Authentic goodness doesn't come from obligation. It comes from overflow. Think about a river. A healthy river doesn't struggle to give water. It doesn't resent the fish and plants that depend on it. It doesn't keep score of who's drinking from it. It gives because giving is its nature, because it's so full that sharing is effortless, because flowing is what it does. That's authentic goodness, not forced, not performed, not contingent on receiving something in return. It's giving from a place of such inner abundance that you genuinely don't need anything back, because you're already full, already complete, already whole. But here's the key. To give from overflow, you first need to fill yourself up. You need to stop the constant outward drain and turn inward. You need to tend to your own needs, your own growth, your own healing. This isn't selfish. This is essential. You can't give what you don't have. You can't share peace if you're in chaos. You can't offer love if you're running on empty. So the paradox is this. True goodness requires what looks like selfishness. It requires saying no. It requires boundaries. It requires putting yourself first sometimes. Not because you don't care about others, but because you understand that sacrificing yourself doesn't actually help anyone. It just creates more suffering in the world. Think about it. When you're exhausted, depleted, and resentful, are you really showing up as your best self? Are you really offering genuine love? Are you really making the world better? Or are you just going through the motions, performing goodness while dying inside? Authentic goodness also requires honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable honesty. It means saying no when you need to, even if someone is disappointed. It means expressing your real feelings, even if they're not nice. It means setting boundaries, even if someone calls you selfish. Because real kindness isn't about making people comfortable. It's about being real, about creating space for genuine connection, about respecting yourself and others enough to tell the truth. And here's what's beautiful. When you start operating from this place, when you stop performing and start being authentic, something amazing happens. You become free. Free from the exhausting performance, free from the invisible scorekeeping, free from the constant anxiety of trying to be good enough. You stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what do I genuinely want to do? You stop giving from obligation and start giving from joy. You stop helping everyone and start helping the people you're actually called to help, in the ways you're actually able to help. And paradoxically, you become more genuinely helpful, more authentically kind, more truly good, because you're no longer trying to prove anything. You're not performing. You're not keeping score. You're not running from your own emptiness. You're just being yourself, being honest, being human. And from that place of authenticity, real goodness flows naturally. Not because you should, not because you're trying to be a good person, but because you're finally free to be who you actually are. So here's what I want you to understand. The hidden cost of goodness isn't goodness itself. It's the performance of goodness. The fake version we've been sold. Real goodness doesn't destroy you. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't require you to sacrifice your authenticity. Real goodness flows from a full cup, from honest expression, from healthy boundaries, from genuine care that doesn't expect anything in return because it doesn't need to. The question isn't whether you should be good. The question is whether you're being authentically good or just performing goodness to avoid dealing with your own emptiness. Are you giving from abundance or from lack? Are you helping from genuine care or from the need to be needed? Are you being kind from love or from fear? Only you can answer that. And the answer might be uncomfortable, but discomfort is where growth happens, where truth lives, where freedom begins. So maybe it's time to stop trying so hard to be good and start being real instead. Because in the end, that's the only kind of goodness that actually matters, the only kind that actually helps, the only kind that won't slowly destroy you from the inside out. If this resonated with you, there's more to explore in the next video.